What's going on, guys? It's Daniel from CoinSpots here. And what the heck is going on with Bitcoin? Thought there was going to be a bounce back from that low at 9,000. We're just hanging around, what, 10,600 now? What the heck is going on? So, yeah, we're going to be getting into Bitcoin, taking a look at the charts, talking about market sentiment, kind of what the heck is going on with this thing. And then we're going to be talking about a few pieces of news per usual. Basically, a U.S. rating agency is giving some of the top cryptos ratings from A to F, just like they do for financial institutions. We're going to go over a little piece of FUD. Um, Someone is predicting Bitcoin is going to go as low as 1,000 this year, so gonna kind of touch on that, get my opinions on that, and then we're gonna be talking about the Lightning Network and how that's kind of what's going on with the Lightning Network for Bitcoin. So yeah, right now we're on the daily chart on Coinbase, and we can see that Bitcoin is it's not looking so good right now. That's not to FUD or anything. Because still we don't know what the heck is going to happen with this. But we've broken this long-term trend line here on the daily for now. We haven't closed below the long-term trend line yet, so there's nothing to be scared about just yet. I mean, and even if we go back down to 9,000 or a little bit below, um, still nothing to be scared about. So yeah, I drew this trend line back from the low here in July, and as you can see, we've just been bouncing off of this trend line 3 times here, and here we also bounced off of it. Even though the wick came all the way down, um, the candle closed above the trend line, and that was what was really important. Just like over here, these candles closed above the trend line. So I'm going to really be watching this daily candle to see if it closes above the trend line or if it doesn't. Because for the past few days we've just been bouncing around this zero point 0.5 fib level, and really we haven't gotten the volume in to see some kind of trend reversal. If you remember from my last video on Friday, I was saying how just this buy volume for me does not signify a change in direction, or a change in the direction of the market, right? Because if we take a look back at these other previous dips, so for example, right here, this was the dip in July, right before the Bitcoin Cash fork. We see this spike in buy volume here. Same thing, especially here at this dip in at 3,000, excuse me. Huge buy volume coming in as we go on. I don't really count this as a dip too much because there wasn't a ton of panic and fear that was going on in terms of market sentiment when we had this little dip. Um, that I mean, in terms of that, it was similar to the fear that was going on in September and in July, right? Telegram and all the chat rooms were just going crazy that, what the heck is going on with Bitcoin? Is this crashing, right? And we saw that, or I saw that during this dip as well. So that's why I wouldn't really consider this one too much of a correction per se. Um, but now, coming up here, we see these two huge bars of sell volume, and the buy volume is just not there to match. And really, what I think is going on here is that there isn't enough demand coming back into the market, right? There isn't enough volume coming back into the market. And that's important to note because there is no news that's coming out that is basically driving this price down. Um, it's honestly been pretty quiet in terms of news coming out there, that or major news coming out, I should say, right? Just like back in September with the whole China FUD, that's what primarily drove the market down lower. Here now, or right now, we're not seeing any kind of big news that could be driving this price down. So I think it really just comes down to the volume, right? To the amount of demand that's coming in for Bitcoin. Because I remember back in September when we had this dip and we ran up all the way to 8,000 here. I remember 6,000, but this was 6,000 right here. Yeah. 6,000, I remember thinking, all right, this is going to be the top and we're going to have a correction. And then we ran up to 8,000 and I was like, all right, 8,000 has to be the top, right? And then obviously we saw this little pullback, but then, another run up to 20,000. But what's important is that the reason we didn't have a significant correction at the 6 or 8,000 level was simply because of the whole euphoria of Bitcoin back, 2 months ago when Coinbase was having, hundreds of thousands of signups a day, um, or new signups a day, I should say. And just people were buying in, buying in, buying in. That's the only reason why we saw Bitcoin run up to 20,000. That's why altcoins were pumping, through the roof, right? Ripple, Tron, Verge, all the really cheap altcoins, people were making some gains in Bitcoin and they're like, hey, let's test out altcoins. Obviously, price. I always talk about price being the biggest determinant in what people buy. So they were buying the cheap coins, Ripple, Tron, uh, Stellar Verge, right? Um, and that's why we saw huge 100, 2, 3, 400, 500x gains on those coins. But right now, that volume is either sitting on the sidelines, um, or that volume, at least some of it, is sitting on the sidelines, and new volume isn't coming in. And because of that, we have to ask ourselves, can this price for Bitcoin and for altcoins, can those prices be sustained without that volume coming back in and new volume coming in? Right? Because without the volume, everything here is really overpriced because you can't sustain those high prices without the volume to back it up. And I think right now we're kind of skating on thin ice in terms of, can we keep the prices where they're at? So because of that, if we dip down to 8,000, which I'm not saying we are, but if that happens, I don't think it should be something to panic about because, like, honestly speaking, I think that would be a pretty good correction because that would, put Bitcoin and um, all the other altcoins back into their place in terms of value, right? Because the whole market right now, as we know, is just overvalued because of just the optimism that we see for crypto. And with this volume kind of drying down, I think the prices are going to correct to what they should be, right? There's going to be a price where buyers aren't going to let the coin go below that. So, as we saw on the last dip, this $9,000 level, there's a huge support on the $9,000 level. So that's going to be a really tough one to break if we come near that during this red candle here, right? So I think, the best thing to do right now is just sit on the sidelines and wait. You know, um, if we go down to 8,000, maybe 7,000, that's totally fine because in the long term, in a year, at the end of 2018, Bitcoin's going to be over 20,000, right? Because ETFs are on the horizon. Lightning Network, which we're going to discuss, is on the horizon. right? There's nothing that's changed with the tech, and that's what's really important to realize. There's nothing that's changed with the tech, so this is just purely a market correcting itself because the volume isn't there to sustain the prices that they once were. Um, so yeah, that's just my thoughts on it. I don't think everybody needs to freak out, even if we go to the $7,000 or $8,000 level. Great buy opportunity, but I don't think there's a need to panic. Um, so yeah, moving on to another indicator that uh, you should be keeping your eye on is the Bitcoin dominance. Um, right now, we're sitting at 35% roughly. And I wish there was a better chart we could look at for this, but considering that we've had that huge altcoin boom about 2 months ago, um, Bitcoin, it's time to take another look at Bitcoin and see if we have that nice bull run back in Bitcoin, which would bring the dominance back up, just like we saw here, right? This was when what is this here? Oh yeah, down coming into the summer, and then that's when right in the beginning of the summer, pretty much is when we saw Bitcoin kind of picking up steam and we went all the way up to 20,000, and that's when Bitcoin dominance peaked at around 60, and then we saw this drop here when that altcoin boom came back in, right? When the money went out of Bitcoin into altcoins, and we were seeing those crazy returns, everything going up, 50% a day. So the Bitcoin dominance is a factor to, or an indicator to keep your eye on, to see if the momentum is shifting from altcoins back into Bitcoin. Because if it is, we're going to see a nice Bitcoin surge with altcoins kind of just hanging around at the levels that they're currently at or taking a dip. Um, so yeah, definitely keep your eye on this Bitcoin dominance factor because we could see a change in the market trend in terms of from everything going up to just Bitcoin, um, Bitcoin going up like we saw coming from the September dip. So yeah, moving on to some of the news. Basically, we've got this U.S. Rating agency, Weiss, I believe it's called, Weiss Ratings, is basically going to be giving the top cryptos. So here's listing some of them: Bitcoin, right? Ethereum, Ripple. I don't know why Tron's in here, but I guess they're taking a look at the coins by market cap. But Tron, Tron pretty much just memed itself like a couple $1 billion market cap. So whatever, they're gonna give that a rating. But why is this important, really? Or actually, first of all, I should discuss what the ratings are, or how they're going to base their ratings on. Basically, they do it through a computer algorithm, so it's the ratings for like banks and stocks, options, whatever that they currently do now. Those ratings are constantly changing based on data or new data that comes in. So the same thing is going to happen for crypto. It's going to be a computer automated system, and they're going to be looking at four primary factors. So the risk index, how low it can go; the reward index, how high it can go; the tech index, the code behind it, how well it's built; scalability of the asset; and then the fundamental index, which is basically use cases, um, how it performs in the real world, can it be adopted, et cetera, et cetera. Um, so those are the four ratings, and they're going to give the coins, or those are the four factors, I should say. They're going to give the coins an A to F rating. And basically, why is this important? Because I think a lot of people are just gonna lean on this to make their investment decisions. Um, this is definitely, adding another data point into what you should be taking a look at when you're investing. But some of these rating agencies, or just ratings in general of stocks and stuff like that, are typically a crutch that a lot of people lean on. Because when investing in the market, a lot of people are just doing it passively. They've got their jobs, their day jobs, and whatever other stuff they want to do, and they'd want to invest their money, but they just don't have the time to actively research um, stocks and stuff like that. And now, especially in the crypto market, when there's new ICOs and coins being added on the daily, a lot of people can't keep up with that. So I think that this is going to be something that a lot of people look at and probably will follow. Um, because I remember, well, I think a couple months ago there was some kind of ICO that basically was aiming toward allowing people to replicate others' trades. And like, if you posted your trade, you'd get um, tokens to incentivize you to keep posting your trade. I don't remember what the project was called. I remember the ICO was hacked, and the project, I fell apart after that. I'm not sure if it was like real or fake, but you know, services where people tell you what to buy, or um, you can just mimic their trades, is something that a lot of people definitely want to take a look at and follow, because it takes the um, uncertainty out of everything, right? Because if someone's telling you X, Y, and Z, you know, they're certain that that's going to be that way, and it takes the uncertainty out of you, right? Because everybody wants some kind of certainty, especially when they're investing their money. And now when the market's moving sideways, people don't know what to do. Should you buy? Should you sell? Should you just wait it out? So services like this, I think they do provide a service. You could some extra addition to the ratings that they give you, but I think this is going to be a big factor in what a lot of people look at into um, what coins they should buy, really. Um, so it's going to be interesting to see what ratings they give these coins, and basically if this has any impact on the market. So yeah, now transitioning to another piece of news that was floating around today. I saw in the chat rooms, this was kind of popping up a lot. Basically, this chief investment officer of the Bleakley Advisory Group says that Bitcoin is going to trade between 1,000 to 3,000 this year. And when I look at this, obviously you have to take it with a grain of salt, because nobody knows what's going to happen. However, personally, I don't think this is likely at all. And a lot of other people in the crypto community probably would not, or would agree with me, right? Bitcoin at 1,000, definitely not possible, right? For me, the threshold is 7,000, as I was talking about before, right? 8,000, we're going to see a huge support, huge amount of buyers stepping in, right? Because that's where I felt the top was a couple months ago, right? For Bitcoin or any kind of cryptocurrency to fall that much, there needs to be some kind of reason for it, right? Some kind of news factor that drives sentiment bearish. Um, and it would have to be something huge for Bitcoin to fall another 50%, or actually more than 50%, 100%. Something huge would just have to come out, right? And as I was saying, with ETFs on the horizon and with the Lightning Network, which we're going to discuss on the horizon, it's very, very unlikely, right? Because the whole market, right? And I think, what was he talking about here? Yes, how the Bitcoin bubble was gonna burst, right, like this year. The entire market is still in its infancy, right? If you talk to a lot of developers and basically any of the guys behind a lot of these projects coming up, they'll tell you that we're still in the beginning stages of this entire crypto, you know, revolution. Really, is what it is. Um, because there isn't, in terms of the big coins, big platform coins like Neo, Ethereum, EOS, Icon, right? A lot of the guys behind those projects still don't know what the heck is going on. You know, those projects are still in their infancy stages compared to, or with respect to, what value they can provide in the future. And when those guys are saying that, hey, this market is just starting, you know, the bubble is nowhere near to be popped anytime soon. You know, 2, 3, 4 years we probably still have of this, right? Because just the tech isn't isn't there yet. You know, there's still so much speculation in this market with the tech being so young that these guys really, the guys behind the project, don't know what's going on. And imagine what that's like for all the investors here. So I think that you know, take this with a grain of salt. Believe it if you want. At the end of the day, no one knows what's going to happen. As long as you're keeping your eye out in the news for what's going on, what headlines are being made, and I think within the near future, the only big negative headline that could come out is either U.S. regulation, so some kind of unprecedented regulation that is negative for cryptocurrency in the United States, or something with an exchange being hacked or disappearing or something. So maybe something to do with Tether, right? I think they just printed another like 500 million Tether. So something with an exchange or something negative or really negative in terms of regulation with the United States, because I say the United States since that's the last big country that really hasn't said anything about crypto. We've had China, and that FUD is already gone. South Korea, still uncertainty with South Korea. So U.S., the United States is the only country left to keep an eye on in terms of regulation that would have a big impact on the market. So yeah, moving on to the Lightning Network. So supposedly the first transaction ever has been completed on the Lightning Network. There's no confirmation of it yet. It's just someone posted on Reddit that they did complete the first transaction on the Lightning Network to actually purchase something. Um, so that's actually really exciting because Lightning Network is going to be one of those big factors that really surges the optimism for Bitcoin, right? I think I was mentioning something about this in another video, but ETFs, Lightning Network are the big headlines for Bitcoin that are just going to drive the price through the roof. And those, especially ETFs, are on the horizon for 2018. I can't stress that enough. We already have futures markets, um, and now we've got banks or big bankers saying that they are going to be taking a look at Bitcoin. They're either going to be adding some kind of Bitcoin futures, some kind of fund, so their clients can invest in Bitcoin. We were having those custodial services for Bitcoin, right? Everything points to optimism in the long term, right? Short term, just because we're having this correction because there's no new volume coming in, that's only going to last for a month or so. End of 2018, we're going to see a huge rally for Bitcoin, or we're going to see a huge rally throughout the year, but the price at the end of 2018 is going to 100% be above 10,000, or I mean above 20,000, right? The previous high that we were at. That's almost a certain fact, I would say. So keep an eye on the development of the Lightning Network. Super exciting to see, um, and it's definitely going to be a rallying point for Bitcoin. So yeah, gonna be watching these charts here, see what's going on. Hopefully we come back above this trend line, but yeah, stay safe out there in the crypto world. Don't do anything crazy. Don't be selling off yet. Nothing to worry about. If anything, just stay on the sidelines and wait this one out. So yeah, hope you guys enjoyed. Like, subscribe, and I will see you guys in tomorrow's video.